Matt, I've got my dungeons, but you know what I don't have?
Dragons. So tonight, let's show you how to make some custom dragons for your game.
That's how we roll. 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 That's how we roll.
Welcome to the Goblin's Corner. My name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight,
We're talking about custom dragons.
that's right, been on a little bit of a week break, and we're coming back strong. Going to hit you with how to make some custom dragons for your game. And I must say, most choice episode because we like dragons.
Everybody likes dragons.
Everybody who doesn't like dragons.
Everybody should like dragons.
That's right. So we're going to show you how to make your own custom dragons for your game. Doesn't matter what game it is.
Nope.
Although it's probably going to be D&D.
Or Pathfinder.
Or Pathfinder. Could be anything.
Yeah.
Could be Shadowrun.
Sure.
And that would be fun as well.
That's a whole different flavor of dragon.
Oh, that'd be a mean dragon.
Yes.
All right. So if you haven't yet, hit that like and subscribe button. Help us get our show out to more people and get notified when amazing episodes come your way. You like how I did that?
Sure. I'm just glad we've moved past the double finger guns.
We're not finger gunning anything anymore.
Well, I appreciate that. If you're listening to the show, how about giving us a review on iTunes or Podchaser or wherever you listen to us?
It'll make us feel good.
Yeah,
Get
I'd
the warm
appreciate it.
fuzzies.
Yeah.
I'll be happy. Might get some more people to see our show.
Hey.
It happens. So, Matt, it's been a long time coming. Why haven't we done a custom dragons, first off?
Honestly, I have no idea.
We forgot.
Realistically, yeah,
So we totally forgot. We've been coming up with all this other awesome stuff, and we're still moving, by the way, on the original coffee pot list. And if you don't know what we're talking about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now,
Almost.
we sat down, we drank a pot of coffee,
As we do.
and we made a list.
Yes.
And we're still running off the list, going strong, folks. We had a lot of ideas. It's almost time for another pot of coffee, though.
Oh, no.
I know. We're going to have to make another list. So, yeah. So this was one that was on the list, but it just kind of got pushed to the wayside.
Yep.
And so we're doing custom dragons. What's so awesome about custom dragons, Matt? There's a lot of things.
It's true. For one, dragons are iconic in fantasy.
Yes. In fact, there might be a game that has it in its name. Several, in fact.
I was going to say probably more than one.
More than one. Dragons are great to surprise your players with. Or do a TPK.
I mean, if it's a real surprise, then maybe they didn't stock up with all the stuff that was necessary.
Listen, if you're looking for a murderous flying death machine or a devious
Tyrant?
tyrant, or a mastermind in charge of a giant mega corporation,
Sure.
then dragons are the way to go, right?
Dragons in many games are part of the forces that bind the world together. Now, that could be a literal, like, cosmic part, but it could also be a political part. Depending on what games you're playing, depends on what shoes they fill.
Yeah, dragons in many aspects are part of the mythology when a world is created, or they're representations of eldritch power, elemental forces, some kind of divine creation myth. So Eberron's a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just something to have in your world and give that uniqueness to it. And then, of course, finally, because they add more flavor.
Yes.
And we like flavor.
More types of dragons means more flavor.
Yeah, so let's go to Flavor Town, Matt. We've got all kinds of dragons in gaming. We mentioned this before, but what are some good examples of different types of dragons?
In D&D and Pathfinder, you've got the chromatic dragons, which are primarily evil.
Okay.
You've got metallic dragons.
Primarily good.
Right. Gem dragons.
Primarily neutral, if I recall.
Mm-hmm. Dracolicks.
So those are primarily dead.
Yes.
Or mostly dead. They've been
mostly
mostly dead. Yeah, they've been mostly dead all day.
Shadow dragons.
Primarily goth.
You wrote that, and I can't help it. Like, I see the winged eyeliner, which I'm all for, but...
It's got some Sisters of Mercy playing in the background.
Yeah, on a dragon, it's got a whole different feel.
Sure.
You've got other types of dragons, like moonstone dragons.
The brain dragons, which are super scary.
Yeah, moonstones are primarily fey, and elder brains are primarily scary.
And you've also got the fairy dragons, of course.
Sure.
Which are primarily awesome.
Yes.
Because I love fairy dragons. I mean, just this
I don't believe you.
crazed look at its eye, but it's got fairy wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. D&D loves dragons, and they should,
Yeah.
because dragons are part of the name.
Pathfinder
Also loves dragons.
also loves dragons. They've got esoteric dragons.
Yeah, so replace the gym dragons with esoteric dragons, basically.
Planner dragons.
So those are based off of the plane they reside in, which 3rd edition D&D had, if you
Right.
recall, like the abyssal dragons and stuff like that. And there's probably still some floating around in 5th.
Like the Moonstone is basically the Feywild dragon.
Sure.
But yeah, they also have primal dragons.
Those are based off the inner planes, and they lump shadow dragons in there. I think they call them umbral dragons, which is even more goth than goth.
Exactly.
They're not just listening to Sister Mercy. They're also listening to a little bit of Type O.
Yep. The Cure.
They've got their own custom gloves with the finger holes in them.
Sure. And they've got it, they're mesh gloves, obviously.
They'd
They're
eat
fishnet
you. They'd
gloves.
fly out and kill you, but it's just not worth it. They're contemplating the darkness. They've got volumes of poetry that's their breath weapon.
Poetry.
Bad poetry. Yeah, think about it.
They've also got space dragons.
Yes, which are awesome. And now that Spelljammer's out, maybe we'll see a couple of those as well.
Yeah, well, they've got solar dragons. And if they reach into the Wayback Machine, we'll also get celestial dragons and a couple others. And that would be fantastic.
Yes. Pathfinder really, really loves dragons as well.
Yes.
And we mentioned also unique individual dragons, but we'll get to those in a minute.
Sure.
Now, those are specific either to a setting or to a story. Smog is a good example of an individual dragon.
Sure.
And of course, lots of other games love dragons too.
As we mentioned, Shadowrun.
Yes. And some other games. We're not going to name all these games.
Most of them.
Most
Like
of them.
if it has a fantasy bent in any way,
It's got a dragon.
it probably has dragons.
Yeah, so go look them up. There's a lot of different dragon games. If you want to play some of them even have dragon in the name. Now, we do want to create dragons tonight and tell you how to. So let's jump in and do that.
Okay.
What do we do, Matt?
First, you're going to ask yourself, are you making a new type of dragon or are you making an individual dragon?
Okay, those are very important concepts because a new species is way different than just, as we mentioned, like an individual style of dragon. It's almost like the difference between saying, I'm going to make an NPC class or an NPC group versus this specific NPC that might mess with the players.
Sure.
That's kind of how I see it.
Absolutely.
So a new type of dragon, I would consider like a new species of dragon.
Right. That's going to imply that there are going to be more than one of these out in the world.
Yep. Flavored according to the location that the dragons reside, but not always.
Right.
But generally, that's how traditionally most of the dragon species have been created, right? Oh, this dragon lives in a
Forest and mountain ranges.
It's going to have some ties to the Feywild or mountainous, terrain powers, or it's going to, have adapted to that particular energy set or spells or magic.
Sure.
You want a nuclear dragon? It's going to live in a toxic waste dump, right?
Absolutely.
Which would, oh my God, that would
Toxic Avenger.
be the Toxic Avenger dragon.
As a dragon.
That would be pretty awesome, wouldn't it? Think about that. Dragons are often the thematic elements in addition to being the big bads, so they will exhibit qualities that are needed for the story, your story or the campaign story in a whole.
And they can be part of the overall thematic of the world, like Eberron, right? Like they don't, like you said, they don't have to picture specifically in your story narratively, but so much as just part of the paradigm of the world.
Yes. Now, new dragons imply there are others of this type for future use, and they have a couple of qualities to them. What are some of these qualities? And by the way, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just ones that most of the games tend to have.
Sure. Generally, they're going to have a specific color.
And that generally indicates what their powers are, their breath weapon. It tends to be pretty easy to figure that out.
They're going to have a personality archetype across the species.
Mm-hmm. That could be either alignment, like lawful neutral, chaotic evil, or it could just be a particular personality, as in this one is greedy, this one is
Curious.
This one's talkative, right?
Right. They're going to have a preferred flavor of terrain.
Magma fields, for example.
Yes, I know. You're going to be hatching little dragon eggs near your lava.
Caldera, yes. Yeah, we still haven't done that terrain yet, but there's going to be some red dragons just chilling.
Sure.
Or some magma dragons, my friends.
Now, they're also going to tend to have a horde preference.
Okay, so a umbral dragon might like blackout curtains. A collection of fine music from the 1980s and 70s.
Excellent vintage of wines.
Oh, yes, very good.
Or just an extensive bar in general.
Yes. Now, on the other side of that, maybe a salt dragon, which doesn't exist, but I'm making it up on the fly.
Sure.
Might have a collection of what?
Cured meats.
There you go. That'd be great. A lot of dead slugs. Crackers. Sure.
I was just trying to give you some options. I don't know.
White stones, maybe
Sure.
quartz. Kind of cool. Hydrophobia.
Alabaster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That'd be kind of neat.
Hydrophobic things like cocoa or sulfur. Anything you can like literally dip your hand in to water and not get wet because of.
Wow. That would be cool to have like elemental sodium chilling. It's a depth charge dragon.
Yeah, it is.
You want to talk about destructive, my friends. Yeah. Breath weapon literally scours the life from you. Like eats you away.
Oh, yeah. Alkali dragons.
We've come up with it. There you go. See how easy it is to come up with a custom dragon? It's just like that, folks.
Just go straight down the periodic table and just be like, what would this do and how would it act?
Yes, that totally do that, right? In addition to horde preferences, they also have what, Matt?
They're going to have natural enemies, theoretically.
And if there are some, cool. If not, then, well, guess what? They tend to be the top predator anyway.
Sure. They're also possibly going to have natural allies, depending on where their favored terrain is.
Yes. They'll have powers. So they'll have like a breath weapon.
Sure.
They might have magic, like spell casting. They might have specific attacks as well. They could be like a fear aura, and this would be where you might throw in D&D lair actions in.
Absolutely.
Or it could just be environmental effects. And by the way, this generally isn't always numeric. This can be thematic for your story because, as we talk about, this is a collaborative storytelling game. So make some of these powers thematic. Maybe the black dragon that has the corrosive acid powers corrupts everything it touches, and in the lore books, things start to kind of decompose around it, right?
Sure. What if you had a fossilization dragon so that literally the things around it began to fossilize, like trees would petrify.
Everything would just ossify around you?
Yeah. That'd be kind of fun.
That would be kind of neat.
This is a thought.
Yeah, I could see that. What would his breath weapon be? Petrification.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Medusas would hang out. A lot of sculptors would be around him.
Sure.
I mean, think about it. You could sculpt anything. I mean, well, you really wouldn't need to sculpt at that point. You'd have to sculpt things out of whatever it became.
And you'd have to leave because otherwise you're going to end up part of the statuary.
That's a good point, yes. In addition to that, they might have some other stats. They might have age categories. They might have specific, like, physical attacks and whatnot.
Sure.
Again, flavor this according to your game, right? We're not doing stats for every single type of game for dragons.
Absolutely not.
We're just kind of going with some of the big ones. Now, for an individual dragon, you're going to use a lot of those same statistics or qualities, but you're also going to add a couple of things as well. So tell me a little bit about individual dragons or unique dragons.
Well, dragons are inherently magical, and many take on the qualities of magical places or alter themselves to become more powerful.
Yes.
Like dragons becoming Dracoliches.
Yes. So these dragons should always have a story behind them about why they are who they are.
Sure.
Straight up. Even if the PCs don't know about it, in your head, as a game master, come up with a reason why this dragon is unique. And it can literally just be because it sat around on some magic items.
Sure.
Right? Started growing swords out of its back. It's now a sword dragon. That'd be kind of cool, right?
A cursed dragon that has collected nothing but cursed treasure and slept on a pile of curses for ages.
Its breath weapon is a hex.
Yep.
That would be pretty awesome. That would be badass.
That one's free, actually. I literally just thought of that.
He's hanging out with the Umbral Dragon, definitely.
Oh, his favorite band's The Damned.
Yeah, see? Got that deep cut, my friend. Very good. When you're creating a unique dragon, use the new dragon qualities above that we just talked about, but also ask yourself, 2 questions.
The first one's going to be, what purpose is it fulfilling for the story?
And that's a big one. I would say that's the most important one.
Sure. Otherwise, why have a unique dragon?
Yes. And then the second is, what makes this dragon specifically unique? Now, the first is going to tailor the second, obviously.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about what it's fulfilling in your story.
There's a lot of options here. Is it the BBEG? That's a classic option.
It's an easy option to do if you want to throw a new dragon. And it may just be that you've got your druthers about making a monster and you just want to challenge the PCs. I'm going to come up with something they haven't seen and really scare the out of them.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to make a brand new dragon. It's going to have powers they've never seen, and it's going to be the BBEG. That's it. Easy.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. Got a monster of the week right there. What else could it be?
It could be a lore NPC. So there are specific types of dragons in Dungeons and Dragons, like the Steel Dragon, that specifically enjoys learning new things. It's a great place to provide a lore dump. But beyond that, dragons are creatures that live for millennia. And so if your players in any game are seeking some long lost thing, that dragon may have been there.
The great dragon that lives inside the gigantic library of insert name.
Sure.
Right? It's a lore dragon. Maybe it has a breath weapon of books.
Sure.
That would be kind of cool. Or it hits you with like physical words.
It's a beat poet.
Oh, love that. Death by paper cuts. That'd be kind of fun too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it would just be a giant sage, right? They're all sages.
Sure.
They're all smart. Dragon in general, unless it's like a white dragon. But even then, they're pretty smart.
Yeah, then they're only as smart as wizards.
Right.
They could be a terrain threat. If your players are having to go from point A to point B and part of that travel is through a dragon's domain, that's a problem for them to solve or not solve.
And unique terrain could call for a unique dragon.
Absolutely.
Like, for example, the Mournlands could have its own version of a dragon.
Ooh, a Mourndrake, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking to you, Keith Baker. That's a free one for you. Go make that. You could have the personification of something.
Yes.
And dragons excel at that, right? So the personification of a type of magic, like enchantment charm or evocation.
Yeah.
The personification of a specific power or a deity.
The fact that a god of war has never been personified in any of the pantheons that I'm aware of in games as a dragon feels ridiculous to me.
That would be a great one. So, what is it fulfilling in your story? And again, next up, why is it unique? Now, these can include all sorts of special things, right? So they could be powers, conditions, statuses, classes, and so forth. Let's talk a little bit about those. First off, we've got special powers. What kind of stuff are we talking about here?
Unique abilities. For one, some dragons are aquatic, right? What if you have a dragon that is always aerial?
Oh,
like a cloud dragon.
So just constantly can fly.
Right.
Maybe a constant at-will flight ability, or burrows.
Sure.
That would be another one. They could be spell skill dragons.
Yes.
Which are really cool. That's definitely a special quality right there. Or they could be tainted by some sort of planar essence, like a shadow dragon is in 5th.
Right. And if there's a shadow dragon, then you could have a dragon tainted by literally anything else.
Ah, the Feywild. It's the Moonstone Dragon.
Absolutely.
Could be radiant. Or, well, we'll get to what we have ours for tonight.
I also love the idea of, a lot of the shadow type dragons could be good dragons that have been tainted. But most dragons are elemental in nature. What if they've been tainted by a different elemental power?
Well, this is when you bring up like the para-elemental or quasi-elemental planes. Imagine like a dragon of void.
That's a bad day. I'm also pro Team Ooze Dragon.
Team Ooze Dragon? I like that. That'd be fun. A dust dragon?
Sure.
Just everything just kind of withers to dust around it.
A rain dragon.
Just a happy rain dragon.
That's a Quetzalcoatl.
Fair enough. I like that. So lots of different types of qualities, right? Can also have special conditions. Now, conditions are what we used to call what?
Like templates.
Yeah. Undeath is the perfect example of that.
Sure. And people's go-to thought there is going to be the Dracolich.
Right.
But There are lots of types of undeath, and it could be way more fun than that.
Like what?
So a vampiric dragon,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have to drink a lot of blood.
Oh, that's true. They have to drink other dragon blood.
Yeah.
A mummy would be fun.
Sure. That's what you need. Something that's ginormous swinging mummy rot.
Just pissed off.
Yep. A ghost dragon.
I'm thinking a morgue dragon with the worm tentacles and such.
Oh, yeah. So there used to be draconic graveyards, like elephant graveyards.
Mm-hmm.
Any of these would fit appropriately there.
Pick an undead, slap a dragon on it, and scare your players to death.
Yeah. A gas dragon.
A gas would be great. Constructs are always fun. They're a different type of condition. What else we got?
Amorphous, like the ooze dragon.
Yeah, you bring it back that ooze dragon, man. He just oozes underneath just slide him under the door.
Can you imagine how awful it would be to have a dragon just dip through a keyhole? I don't care about your castle. I don't care about your defenses. Straight through a keyhole, a dragon.
That would be awesome. You're running down the dungeon from the dragon. The dragon's just kind of sloshing along. You're like, man, it's coated in slime. This dragon's going to kill us, right? It's got death on the wing. And you slam the door. You barricade it. It slams against the door real quick, and then you just see it start pushing through the keyhole, sliding under the door, going around all the cracks, and then reforming. Kind of like, what is it, like Terminator?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That would be horrifying and awesome. A Fey dragon. We've got a couple of those.
Sure.
Giant dragons.
Now, that's disturbing in and of itself because dragons can be very large creatures. Let's just make them bigger.
Some other fun things. Elementals. That's easy, right?
Sure.
Just tie it to a different elemental plane. We've mentioned a couple already. Plant dragon.
Yes. Like similar to the old school lindworms, but more planty.
Mm-hmm. Fungal.
Yes. Because spores.
Yeah, that would just be nasty. And of course, you could tie it to a specific plane itself, which again, some games already have, but if you don't have it in your game, throw it in there, right? It could be any plane. Plane of dreams.
Absolutely.
Abyssal, celestial, could be the Beastlands. What would a Beastlands dragon look like?
More feral. So there used to be a fang dragon. And it was just more physical in every way. And I feel like that's a Beastlands dragon.
Absolutely. You know what else would be fun? Would be a Valhalla dragon.
Yeah.
Because he's got a big old jug of mead and a horned helmet.
Another one for the alcohol breath weapon.
There you go. Speaking of some fun things, we also have what, Matt?
Question of the week.
Okay. Tell me this dragon-themed question of the week, because I know it has to be about dragons.
I try.
Okay.
If you were to have a personalized dragon, what would their appearance be? What is their nature? And what is their breath weapon?
A personalized dragon, aside from the one that we just created tonight?
Yes.
That we haven't told anybody about yet?
Correct.
I'm going to say, this is going to be fun. I'm going to say a glow-in-the-dark dragon.
Okay.
You can see him at night.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
He looks like a mass of glow sticks and a psychedelic breath weapon.
Okay. So a rave dragon.
A rave dragon. Yes. That would be fun, right?
Yeah. Or a nightclub dragon. Doesn't have to be a rave.
He likes to party.
Sure.
You know?
His breath weapon is lights and cacophony of sound.
Lights, cacophony, and the ability to gain synesthesia because, oh man, I'm just in the zone, bro.
Sure.
Breeze on you and you're having like a crazy sensory experience.
I'm for that. For me, I think I would go with a malachite dragon.
Mm-hmm.
That is, that's my favorite stone, but also a huge malachite would be really cool to me. I think their breath weapon would be something nature related because I feel like their location would be very forest based.
I can agree with that.
Maybe plant growth or animate plants as a breath weapon.
So you're going to have a dragon that just basically animates plants, tends a garden and such?
Sure.
Meanwhile, mine's out partying. He's got LEDs on his head.
I mean, somebody's got to grow the chemicals that your dragon's
Good point.
partying
Yeah,
with.
absolutely. Got a little bit of fungal dragon in him as well. He's
Sure.
a fun guy.
I see what you did there.
Yes. Of course, we're always interested in your answer to the question of the week. If you'd like, hit us up at Godless Corner on Twitter. And of course, you can find us on every other dumpster fire that Matt happens to sign up for, i.e. social media.
That's all of social media.
Yes, all social media sucks. Now, let's get back to some custom dragons, shall we?
Sure.
We mentioned special qualities and special conditions. We also have different types of statuses that you can use to make your dragon.
Indeed.
What are some examples of a special status?
Mixed birth, such as, say, a red and silver dragon.
It's definitely unusual.
Indeed. Or like a blue topaz, whatever combo you are interested in, that is going to have some very fun effects.
Mixed up breath weapons or maybe different types of powers, or maybe they'll just look kind of funny.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. I like that.
And, you know, when you get into things like that, then you get to have real fun with it, right? Because a red silver dragon, is it going to be like red chrome? Or is it going to have patterns of red and silver? Or is it going to be like pink?
That's a good point. Maybe his lips are silver. He's red mostly. Almost like the chrome around the claws and the back of the tail, like bumper.
Sure.
Thinking of like a car.
Like a car?
Yeah. Kind of fun.
Candy apple.
Yes. Could be revered or reviled by humanoids. And so status may not mean like the purpose of birth. It could also be status in that.
As a creature.
Like a social status of some sort as the creature, right? On that same note.
You could have it as a patron or a mastermind, depending on, you know, which end of the spectrum you're on.
For or against the creatures. And of course, you could have it be viewed as a god or a demon.
Another thing you don't see a lot of. Other than Takissus, what else is there?
That's a good point. In addition to special status, you could also have a special class. And when we say that, what are we talking about?
Either literally dragons with class levels or things like the spell scales that give them class-like abilities.
Look, if you want to make a dragon scarier or unique, give it wizard abilities, right? Make it a warlock.
Sure.
That would be kind of fun. Dragon wakes up, you guys are trying to raid its terrain, and it eldritch blasts you before it breathes on you. That would suck.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to think of like which patron would be the worst, and I think the answer is all of them.
Yes.
There's not a good answer there.
That would be very disturbing.
I think probably a celestial warlock, because then A, it can heal itself, but B, it's also the chosen creature of a celestial being.
For that matter, giving it cleric levels would also be nasty.
Wonderful.
Because you see this dragon, it's like, wow, it's a really heavily armored dragon. Does it have barding on it? Why does it have a mace next to it? Is a giant mace like the size of a building?
Sure.
It just comes, slams it down.
I like the idea of a tail mace.
A tail mace would be awesome. Very Stegosaurus.
Sure.
Yeah. Finally, you could also do just specific like special personality or special habits.
Sure. And I think regardless of any of the other ones,
you have to have these.
You should have these.
Yeah.
Right.
I think these are required to make an individual dragon.
Yes.
So let's give some examples of maybe specific personalities or habits.
Okay. It could have a solemn oath of some sort, like maybe it is the guardian of an artifact.
Yeah, something that's locked away and it protects it.
Maybe it eats a particular type of treasure.
Only the most exquisite, rare rubies,
Sure.
right? Covered in barbecue sauce.
Like a malachite dragon might eat copper.
It might. Covered in barbecue sauce. I want barbecue tonight.
That's
It could have maybe like specific goals, like a white dragon that wants to create or control an entire frozen kingdom. That seems appropriate for a white dragon.
right. Only makes sense. Maybe you've got a studious copper dragon that invites experts to come and speak to them.
That also would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, what is the purpose of the story? What makes it a unique dragon?
Right.
And then once you figure that out, make your custom dragon, right? Come up with some stats, come up with some powers, give it a little bit of lore, some flavor, and you're golden.
Absolutely.
Now we've got 2 custom dragons. Now we've mentioned a bunch of ideas, but we actually wrote down 2 custom dragons tonight for you to use in your campaign. And I must say that these are probably the most ridiculous ones we've come up with for a while.
But it does actually illustrate a point that is often true with a lot of dragons, which is that many dragons have polar opposite dragons.
Yes, and these are definitely polar opposite dragons
Indeed.
tonight. And interestingly enough, we both came up with these kind of on the side, but they're planar dragons of a sort as well.
Yes.
So let's talk first about the plaid dragon, and then we'll talk about the paisley dragon.
Okay.
And yes, plaid and paisley.
Yes.
So we've got favorite terrain. We've got an idea of like an alignment. We've got some descriptions, powers, and some lore behind it. So tell me about the plaid dragon, Matt.
All right. Well, the plaid dragon is a form of construct.
Okay, so it's a mechanical dragon. Very interesting.
Yes. Its favored terrain is Mechanus or the other lawful planes. They are generally lawful neutral.
Because they're from Mechanus.
Right.
Yeah.
The description is thus. These clockwork creatures are born, in quotation marks, from metallic gear-like eggs. The coloration and texture differ according to the individual dragon inside.
Cool. I like the idea of little gear-like eggs. That's kind of fun.
So my brain has an egg timer.
Oh, like, yes, that would be so awesome. And they're all different colors of plaid?
Yeah.
Neat.
So the plaid dragons fixate, some say imprint, on particular subject matter at a young age, and thus they're known for their unique hordes and the subject matter that they view as prized.
So it could be anything.
Right. And specifically, it's not that they all fixate on the same one. It's that individually each has a expertise or fixated subject.
So when they hatch, they become immediately interested in a particular subject matter.
Correct.
Cool.
Everything the plaid dragon collects and prizes has a basis in law, being from, a lawful plane.
Sure, that makes sense.
Some may have an extensive collection of like tax codes across all of the planes, while others may collect books and lists of lineage or heraldry. Due to their extensive selective knowledge, they often answer questions for a fee.
Very nice.
So if your players need very specific knowledge, this is an option for them.
Tax codes would be useful for adventurers.
Could be.
Depending if you're playing I'm thinking an Acquisitions Inc.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this would be great for an Acquisitions Inc.
They got to
campaign.
visit the plaid dragon to get their taxes up to date. That would be awesome.
Now, this fee may not necessarily be monetary in value. It often includes services which increase their hordes or goods and services which allow the same result.
Yeah.
They're focused specifically on whatever it is.
I see them as kind of like crazed collectors. I've got every figurine of this particular thing.
Sure.
And this one's in mint condition. You want to talk about it? Check this out. That's kind of fun.
Plaid dragons are solitary, and they rarely congregate other than at a yearly swap meet or the rare occasion where their interests overlap.
The two of them have this similar interests or something close enough.
Right. Like heraldry and lineage. Those are two things where there might be overlapping interests or overlapping loot, at which point in time they could be in direct opposition of each other.
That's very true. What are some of the powers and abilities of a plaid dragon?
They're immune to poison, necrotic, bludgeoning, sleep, exhaustion, and charm. They're constructs.
Right. They can't be exhausted. They can't be put to sleep. Beating them to death with something doesn't make any sense. I'm good with all that.
They are resistant to fire.
Also good.
They are vulnerable to lightning.
Okay.
They're metallic constructs.
Sure. You zap them a little bit. It's going to hurt.
They have a fear aura, like dragons do, or awe, depending on whether or not they are attacking you.
They're scary regardless of whether they are awe-inspiring or fearful, intimidating.
Sure. They have a breath weapon, which is a 60-foot cone of paralysis.
Stop. Hammer time.
Wing buffet. And that's going to be a DC strength 18 or be moved.
Numbers can scale according to age, category, and CR.
Yep. This launches people.
Yeah, I love that.
At later times.
Smacks them around.
We also gave them a special ability, which we're calling Professor Chatter.
Mm-hmm.
I also like professional jargon.
I like that as well. Yeah.
Plaid dragons can talk incessantly about their subject of interest, Listeners in combat or out of combat must make a DC 22 history check or fall asleep.
Now, that's fun because it's a history check.
Sure, because they're discussing a subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they also have your standard, like, multi-attack, claw, bite, tail slap.
Yeah, we don't care about any of that stuff.
It's there.
They're dragons. They could,
Right.
they could do wing buffet. They could slap you with their tail. They could bite. They could claw, and so forth. One thing we didn't mention is any particular campaign-specific stuff like lair abilities that D&D has, but we could easily suggest a couple of them. I would say one is things maybe are within a mile of their lair much more orderly.
For lair actions, I personally think it should depend on what their particular expertise is.
Oh, that would be kind of cool. Maybe one that collects action figures. It's
Animate object?
Yes. Or I was also going to go a little bit weirder is that their entire lair is wrapped in cellophane, hermetically sealed.
Sure. The tax dragon is not one you want to fight because I feel like their lair action makes you lose money.
This next to the Grim Reaper. Oh, man. Yes. Maybe every time they damage you, the tax dragon takes money from you. It's going to cost you.
It doesn't matter if it's in a bag of holding or not
That's awesome.
because tax dragons know you're holding.
Yeah, tax man don't care. What's some lore behind the plaid dragons, Matt?
The original plaid dragons are said to have been created with metallic and chromatic dragon eggs laid on the plane of Mechanus. The lawful reality subtly altered the nature of the unborn dragons, and they hatched with newfound powers and abilities. Sages state that they can trace back the type of dragon based on the colors and patterns of the plaid dragon to their original ancestor. But that's never been proven.
So like maybe a red and black plaid dragon
Could have been a red dragon egg or a black dragon egg.
could have been red or black, but who's to say, right?
Right.
Never know.
What if it was a purple dragon egg and it just started separating the component colors?
That's a good point.
Right?
I like that.
It's a lawful place.
Yeah. So that's the plaid dragon. Delightful, lawful collector. Somewhat obsessive, I would assume.
A little bit.
Talk your ear off, put you to sleep, or paralyze you.
Indeed. Now, anybody who's watched the show with any regularity,
We'll understand what this next one is all about.
the next one is the Paisley dragon.
We've gone into Hamblish the Paisley Mage, and we've expanded upon the lore. Wait for the subsequent book to come out. But we have a Paisley dragon for this evening as well. And much like the plaid dragon, it is a planar dragon.
Sure.
But this time, it comes from the writhing chaos of limbo.
Sure. As all Paisley things do.
Sure. And its favorite terrain is, in fact, limbo or chaotic plains. Generally, chaotic neutral. I know it's a shock.
Give us a description on this thing.
These garish, brilliantly colored dragons can be identified by their distinctive teardrop scale patterns, which sages say exist on a fractal level.
Nice fractal Paisley.
Fractal scales. Paisley dragons exhibit their own personal hue and patterns, each believing theirs is the height of beauty and dragon kind. These dragons hail from a region of limbo known as the Deep Paisley. Scary, right?
Yeah, we've got a new place in limbo.
Yes,
I'm for it.
It's called the Deep Paisley, a realm of extreme and often violent chaotic magic where elemental forces churn out new extreme realities.
So it's where Mountain Dew comes from.
Yes. Yeah, do the do. Paisley dragons are experts of change, particularly elemental effects, and their hordes often exhibit these qualities. A particular dragon may collect memorabilia from the elemental plane of water, such as a captured water elemental, or fluid dynamics scrolls, while another may study wild magic zones and have a series of very dangerous, unstable prizes to showcase unfortunate visitors.
I love the quotation marks around prizes.
Yes. It's a bomb. To outsiders, which is anyone not a Paisley dragon, each creature seems a bit mad, but if one can befriend a Paisley dragon, that can mean the difference between death or success for many planar adventures.
Sure.
It's kind of cool, right?
Absolutely. Both of these types of dragons are compulsive in very different ways.
Yes. Paisley dragons often use their malleable form to walk among humanoids, and as such can be found as eccentric patrons or tyrannical lords, depending upon their whim and the society they decide to infiltrate, all with the purpose of gathering more of whatever the hell they enjoy collecting.
Sure.
Because dragons like hoarding stuff, right?
Right.
And these are just basically chaotic hoarders of, in general, elemental stuff.
But I also recognize that these are people of chaos.
Uh-huh.
And there's part of me that feels like in the same way that humans are breeding bioluminescent everything, I feel like there's definitely a Paisley dragon out there that is trying to breed bioluminescent
Humans.
people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're just messing with the gene stock.
Absolutely.
There's definitely a Paisley dragon that does that.
Just a thought that occurred to me.
I
that's
love that
all.
idea, yeah. Glow stick humans walking around. If you just shake them a little bit, they'll glow. They light up your cave. It's great. You could even eat them later.
Yeah.
They make your poop glow, though.
Paladins, you got to crack the armor.
Absolutely.
All right, so what are some of the powers of these guys?
So first up, they have elemental immunity overall. So acid, cold, fire, thunder, and lightning. Your game may differ, but
Sure.
they're immune to traditional elemental powers.
Okay.
They're resistant to poison, and they have a malleable form. So they can choose to ignore any effect which alters their body. Of course, they can shape change, so.
Right.
They are, however, vulnerable to force.
Because it's a static.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, it's a force effect, right? They do have a breath weapon. They have 2 breath weapons, in fact.
All right.
First is a 60-foot cone of Paisley Chaos. You can roll a random elemental effect within the Paisley Chaos.
Okay.
Just that. Just random elemental effect, right?
Makes sense. And the other is?
A line. 120-foot line of Raw Chaos. Roll a wild magic effect or a random transmutation, whichever is more amusing.
Sure.
And I'm not going to say any more to that because I want the DMs to playing to come
have
up with,
fun with it.
Yeah. You want to turn them into, party hats and disco balls? Go for it. You want to roll in a wild magic table because you don't have the time to come up with wild magic stuff? That's fine too. If you want to go find the net librum of, 10,000 wild magic effects?
You don't want to do that.
Go look it up. It's really cool.
Oh, you accidentally snuffed out the sun. Bad days.
It's what it is. Just like other dragons, they have the claw bite. They've got the wing buffet, stuff like that. But they also have, instead of a fear aura, even though they are fearsome, a wild magic aura. Paisley dragons do not technically inspire fear, although they are indeed fearsome, but rather warp reality around them.
Like you do.
So basically replace the fear aura, which I think is 30 or 60 foot, with a wild magic aura, which would suck if you're a wizard or any caster. Go after this Paisley dragon. What if he's in humanoid form?
See, it's worse in humanoid form. Because if you know you're fighting a Paisley dragon, you just attack from a distance as a caster.
Yep. But if you're rolling up on this guy who happens to be your patron and you're pissed off at him and you start casting and all of a sudden, instead of the fireball that comes out, there's, 15 live frogs that start devouring themselves.
Sure.
You're going to be a little bit confused, somewhat upset.
Could be.
And then the patron shifts form and you see his fractal scales and he breathes raw chaos on you and you turn into a muffin. Or whatever.
Hopefully a delicious muffin at least.
Yeah, no bran muffins on that. And of course we could have some possible lair actions or other effects as well. I would assume things are mutable near the lair.
I agree. I think at a certain distance, things like the leaves of trees are Paisley shaped, or fractally Paisley.
Channels
like
the
that.
deep Paisley a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. That would be kind of fun. Maybe some fractal mountain ranges if they're in a cave.
That could be fun too. Fibonacci caves.
Yes. How fun would that be?
I also feel like somewhere out there are definitely Paisley warlocks.
We're definitely coming up with the Paisley warlock. We've already got a Paisley mage, so
Sure.
Paisley warlock's not really too big of a leap for us.
Well, they took the shortcut. Hamblish studied it.
Yeah, Hamblish delved deep into the Paisley.
Speaking of delving deep, what is the lore on these Paisley dragons?
No one is quite sure how the first Paisley dragon came about, but planar sages suggest they may have been a deliberate byproduct of the deep Paisley. I'm going to say that in a deep voice. As some believe the region has both a will and an intelligence behind it.
Sure.
That's a lot of fun, right? Indeed, Hamblish the Paisley mage was stated as saying, "The deep Paisley has its own motives, to which I don't know, but the dragons and that which they hoard are definitely part of it. Do you have a sandwich?" That's what Hamblish the Paisley mage says. Is this merely a whimsical group of draconic creatures or a nefarious plot by a chaotic interdimensional deity? Who knows?
It can be both.
It can be both.
We're going to do a couple of quick additions that we'd like to see.
And we suggest you throw in if you're going to make some custom dragons. First off, I remember Animate Breath Weapon from 3rd edition. Throw that in.
Absolutely.
You should animate the breath weapon. Look, they're creatures of raw magic. Let them do some ridiculous
100%. Although animating the breath weapon of a paisley dragon
would be awesome. Just animated chaos.
Absolutely.
It turns into a slod. That's what it would do. It's just a slod.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
It's just a slod.
Energy admixture. This is especially important if you're going to do like the red silver dragons and things like that. They should have a dual breath weapon.
Sure.
But
or both. Fire and cold, or lightning and acid, or whatever you turn out to be. Either or. It would be nice, right? Yeah. We're talking about breath weapons. Non-specific energy breath weapons would be fun as well. Some editions had it before. Blasts of sand.
That was the yellow dragon.
Metallic shards, which I believe was the sword dragon.
I think you're right.
And then you mentioned one before we started recording, which was petrification.
That would be
weapon.
a great breath weapon.
That would be horrible to behold. I would love that.
The fossil dragon.
Fossilized dragon. Yes.
Mutations.
Yeah. Extra heads. Give them 4 wings. Make them look like King Ghidorah.
I was just thinking extra wings would be awful because what you really don't need is faster dragons.
Extra wing buffets.
That also.
Name him Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
One thing to consider is they are geniuses.
Yes.
Play them as such.
Your dragons should, A, know what is in their hoard and be willing to use it. I 100% believe that a dragon that is dying is going to grab that potion of superior healing and drink it.
Or the wand of fireball and nuke the spellcasters.
Sure.
Right?
Any and all of the above.
Yes. Finally, make some draconic specific magic items as well.
Now, those existed in 3rd edition or 3.5 for Dungeons and Dragons. And some of those were cool, but just in general, things that very much make sense for dragons to have.
Like armor.
Sure.
That resists, I don't know, a giant lance that this paladin's rolling up with on his horse.
Sure. A nose ring of mage hands. It just gives them 2 pair of normal hands to work with.
That makes perfect sense, yeah, for fine-tuning things.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Couple options to create your own unique dragons, whether it's an entire species or just one particular badass dragon, for you to use in your campaign however you see fit.
I want to know, let us know what you decide to make.
And tell us.
Yes, we absolutely are super interested.
So that we can laugh as you kill your characters as well. Any questions or comments? Hit us up at Goblin's Corner on Twitter. Did you enjoy this program? We've got oodles more. Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player, YouTube and Twitch.
Click the 5 stars and give us a review on iTunes and Podchaser. On YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. It gets our show in front of more people, and it feeds the hungry algorithm.
She's currently a dragon with a laptop in one hand and a subscriber count in the other.
Sure.
The algorithm dragon. Think about that.
Oh, that's awful.
That's awful.
That's terrifying.
That's all the time we have for tonight. Once again, my name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
We'll see you next time.
Good night, folks. The Goblin's Corner has been written and produced by Eric Holden and Matt Staple.
D20 did our music.
And this has been a Subterranean production.
Later.